April 12, 1945. 80 miles north of Okinawa, Lieutenant Commander Robert Malone stands on the bridge of USS Cassin Young, watching the green glow of the SK-2 radar screen pulse in the darkness. A cluster of contacts appears at the edge of the display, 97 miles out, bearing southwest. His hand reaches for the radio transmitter. The Kamikaze pilots forming up over Kyushu have no idea they've already been seen. Their death sentence has just been signed. Before these, do you have any memories of World War II? I wish you good health. The war in the Pacific has entered its final, most desperate phase. American forces tighten their grip around the Japanese home islands, and the enemy responds with a weapon born of calculated fanaticism, the kamikaze. These suicide pilots, their aircraft laden with explosives, seek to crash directly into American warships, trading their lives for devastating impact. In the early days of these attacks, surprise is their greatest ally. Carrier task forces, caught off guard, suffer horrific casualties. The USS St. Louis sinks at Leyte Gulf. The USS Franklin burns off Okinawa with over 800 dead. But by spring 1945, the United States Navy has developed a countermeasure that transforms the tactical equation entirely. Radar Picket destroyers. These specialized warships position themselves in rings extending 50 to 100 miles from the main carrier task forces. Equipped with the latest SK and SK-2 air search radar systems, they serve as America's electronic eyes, detecting incoming raids while Japanese pilots are still climbing to altitude over their own bases. What follows is not merely a technical innovation, but a complete reversal of tactical advantage. The hunters become the hunted. Surprise, the kamikaze's deadliest weapon, evaporates into the electromagnetic spectrum. Lieutenant Commander Malone has been on station for 19 hours. His ship, Cassin Young, a Fletcher-class destroyer, displacing 2,500 tons, rides the swells at Radar Picket Station No. 1, the northernmost point in the defensive screen protecting Task Force 58. Behind him, 73 miles to the south, 16 Essex-class carriers steam in formation, their decks crowded with Hellcats and Corsairs. Malone's job is simple in concept, brutal in execution. See them first, report them fast, and survive what comes next. The radar operator, Petty Officer 2nd Class James Koenig, leans closer to his scope. Sir, I'm counting at least 35 contacts, possibly more. They're orbiting. Looks like they're forming up. Malone doesn't hesitate. He lifts the radio handset. Delegate Base, this is Picket 1. Flash red, control yellow. Multiple bogies bearing 240. Range 9 or 7 miles. Angels 15, closing. Count 35 plus. Looks like a coordinated strike package. The response from the Combat Information Center aboard USS Bunker Hill comes within seconds. Picket 1, Delegate Base copies flash red. Vector top covers to your posit. Scrambling additional CAP now. All ships execute Plan Baker. Out. Across the task force, organized chaos erupts into disciplined action. On the flight decks of Essex, Bunker Hill, Intrepid, and 13 other carriers, deck crews sprint into motion. Grumman F-6F Hellcats and Vought F-4U Corsairs, already fueled and armed, roar down the catapults into the dawn sky. Fighter directors aboard each carrier vector intercept courses toward the incoming raid. Anti-aircraft cruisers and destroyers adjust their positions, creating overlapping fields of fire. The carriers themselves begin evasive maneuvers, turning into the wind to maintain flight operations while complicating attack geometry for any kamikaze that penetrates the fighter screen. 97 miles to the north, Lieutenant Takashi Yamamoto leads his formation of 38 Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighters and Yokosuka D-4Y dive bombers toward what he believes will be a surprise strike. Each aircraft carries a 250-kilogram bomb. Each pilot has written his final letter home, tied his Hachimaki headband tight, and accepted that he will not return. Yamamoto is 23 years old. He has been flying for 11 months. Before the war, he wanted to be a schoolteacher. He checks his instruments and scans the horizon. Clear skies, good visibility. The American carriers should be directly ahead, roughly 50 minutes flying time. His briefing indicated minimal fighter coverage in the early morning. Intelligence suggested the Americans would be vulnerable during the shift change between night and day combat air patrols. He banks slightly left, keeping his formation tight. Discipline and surprise will deliver them to their targets. He has no idea that 52 Hellcats and Corsairs are already climbing hard toward him, vectored by radio guidance from ships he cannot see, tracking a threat he doesn't know exists. Back on Casse-Young, Malone watches the tactical plot develop. The enemy formation is steadied on course, descending now to 12,000 feet, range 71 miles, and closing at approximately 200 knots. The first American fighters are 48 miles out from the carriers, climbing through 16,000 feet, closing the intercept angle at combined speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. "Sir," Koenig reports, "I'm tracking our CAP now. They're going to make contact in 8 to 10 minutes. Malone nods. The mathematics of interception have become almost routine. Distance, speed, altitude, bearing, all calculated in real time, transmitted continuously, refined second by second. What once required luck and sharp eyes now unfolds with mechanical precision. The Japanese pilots fly blind into a system that has already measured, analyzed, and responded to their presence. At 7,600 feet, cruising at 280 knots, Commander David McCampbell leads 4 divisions of Hellcats, 16 aircraft total, toward the intercept point. He's already an ace, credited with 19 confirmed kills. Today will add more. His radar intercept officer has been feeding him vectors for the past 6 minutes. He knows exactly where the enemy is, what altitude they're flying, and how many aircraft they're facing. "Tally-ho," he radios. "Bandits at 11 o'clock level, count 3-8. Repeat 3-8. Mix Zeeks and Judas. All divisions, let's break them up. Blue and red take the high cover. Green and white nail the bombers." The American fighters split into coordinated elements. The Hellcats, heavier and less maneuverable than Zeros, use their superior speed and diving power. They approach from above and behind, attacking and slashing runs that exploit their aircraft strengths while minimizing exposure to enemy maneuverability. The Corsairs, faster still and equipped with 6.50 caliber machine guns, focus on breaking up the bomber formations. Yamamoto sees them coming, dark shapes diving out of the sun. He shouts a warning into his radio, but there's no time. The first Hellcat opens fire at 400 yards. Tracers stream past his canopy. He banks hard right, trying to evade, but his wingman explodes in a fireball of aviation fuel and ordnance. The formation disintegrates. Pilots break left and right, some attempting to fight, others diving for the deck, a few pressing forward, determined to reach their targets despite the slaughter unfolding around them. The sky becomes a three-dimensional battlefield of smoke trails, tracer fire, and falling aircraft. McCampbell locks onto a Zero attempting to climb away, leads it perfectly, and fires a 2-second burst. Hits sparkle along the fuselage and wing root. The Zero shudders, rolls inverted, and falls away trailing smoke. He doesn't watch it crash. He's already selecting another target. Within 4 minutes, 19 Japanese aircraft are destroyed. The survivors scatter, their formation shattered, their coordinated attack plan obliterated. 7 kamikazes press on toward the carriers, flying low and fast, hoping to reach the fleet by sheer determination. They don't make it. The second wave of American fighters, vectored by Casse-Young and 3 other radar Picket destroyers, intercepts them 53 miles from the task force. Of the 7, 5 are shot down before they ever see an American ship. The remaining 2 penetrate to within 38 miles before a division of Corsairs from Intrepid catches them at wavetop level and destroys both. Not a single kamikaze reaches visual range of the carriers. Malone receives the final tally by radio. 38 enemy aircraft launched, 38 destroyed, 0 American losses. He allows himself a brief moment of satisfaction before returning to the radar scope. The Japanese will try again. They always do. By April 1945, this pattern has become standard. The United States Navy's radar picket system, refined through bloody trial and error during the Okinawa campaign, creates a defensive perimeter that Japanese pilots cannot overcome. The picket destroyers themselves often pay a terrible price. They draw attacks precisely because they are visible, isolated, and vulnerable. But their early warning gives the fleet an insurmountable advantage. The Japanese understand what's happening. Intelligence reports confirm that American fighters consistently intercept their formations far from the target area, but they lack the technology to counter it. Japanese radar development lags years behind American capabilities. Their pilots fly with courage and determination, but they fly blind into a system that sees them coming from the moment they leave the ground. The psychological impact on Japanese aviators is devastating. Pilots who survive aborted missions return with accounts of being ambushed by overwhelming numbers of enemy fighters appearing as if by magic. Some describe formations of 50 or 60 American aircraft, swarming them before they've even sighted the task force. The myth of the invincible kamikaze, able to strike with impunity through sheer willpower, collapses under the reality of electromagnetic detection and coordinated fighter direction. The numbers tell the story. In March 1945, before the full implementation of the radar picket system, kamikaze attacks sank or severely damaged 23 American ships. In April, with the system fully operational, despite the Japanese launching over 1,500 sorties, only 8 ships suffer major damage, and just 3 sink. By May, the ratio becomes even more lopsided. Japanese losses exceed 90% on most missions. Entire formations are annihilated before reaching visual range of their targets. On the afternoon of April 16th, Cass-Young detects another raid forming up over Kyushu. This time, the Japanese send 74 aircraft, a massive effort representing a significant portion of their remaining air strength. Malone reports the contact at 104 miles. Task Force 58 scrambles 96 fighters. The interception occurs 81 miles from the carriers. The battle lasts 17 minutes. 62 Japanese aircraft are destroyed. Of the 12 that escaped the initial ambush, 8 are shot down during a running fight back toward Okinawa, reach the picket line, and are destroyed by anti-aircraft fire from the destroyers themselves. Again, not a single kamikaze reaches the carriers. The radar picket destroyers pay for this success in blood. Ships like USS Bush, USS Colhoun, and USS Luce absorb attacks meant for the carriers and sink with heavy casualties. Their crews know they are bait, positioned deliberately to draw enemy fire while simultaneously providing the early warning that saves the fleet. It is a brutal calculus, trading destroyer crews for carrier groups, but it works. Lieutenant Yamamoto does not survive his mission. His Zero, riddled with .50 caliber bullets from Commander McCampbell's Hellcat, crashes into the ocean 73 miles from the American carriers. He never sees the ships he intended to destroy. His death, like those of thousands of other kamikaze pilots, achieves nothing beyond adding to the casualty lists. The tactic that once seemed so terrifyingly effective has been systematically neutralized by a combination of technology, tactics, and the sheer industrial might of the United States Navy. By June 1945, Japanese commanders recognized the futility of massed kamikaze attacks against radar-equipped task forces. They shift to small-scale raids, hoping individual aircraft flying at low altitude might penetrate the defenses. But even these tactics fail. The Americans deploy night fighter pickets equipped with airborne radar, closing the last remaining gap in their coverage. The kamikaze, once a symbol of Japanese defiance and desperation, becomes little more than a waste of pilots and aircraft that the empire can no longer afford to lose. The strategic implications extend beyond simple casualty ratios. The radar picket system allows the American fleet to operate with impunity off the Japanese coast. Carrier aircraft strike targets throughout the home islands, mining harbors, destroying rail networks, and preparing the ground for an invasion that will, ultimately, never be necessary. The Japanese military, unable to contest American naval supremacy, can only watch as their capacity to resist evaporates under relentless air assault. On August 6, 1945, the B, 29 Enola Gay drops an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, Nagasaki suffers the same fate. Japan surrenders on August 15th. The war ends. The kamikazes, intended as a weapon of last resort to inflict unacceptable casualties on the American fleet, have failed. The radar Picket destroyers, unglamorous workhorses of the Pacific War's final months, have done their job with brutal efficiency. Lieutenant Commander Malone brings Cass and Young back to Pearl Harbor in September. His ship has survived 73 days on radar Picket duty, detected over 200 enemy aircraft, and been attacked directly 9 times. 32 men from his crew are dead or wounded, but the ship remains afloat, and the carriers she protected never suffered a single kamikaze hit while under her watch. He stands on the bridge one last time, looking at the radar scope now powered down, its green glow extinguished. The technology seems simple. Pulses of electromagnetic energy, reflected and measured, converted into coordinates and vectors. But this simple technology, combined with disciplined tactics and overwhelming fighter strength, broke the back of Japan's last desperate gambit. The kamikaze pilots flew with courage. They accepted death willingly, believing their sacrifice would turn the tide of war. But courage alone could not overcome physics. Surprise alone could not penetrate radar waves traveling at the speed of light. By the time they formed up over their bases, they were already detected, tracked, and targeted. By the time they reached the ocean, interceptors were already vectored to destroy them. By the time they died, their deaths had accomplished nothing except to add to the terrible sum of war's waste. The radar Picket destroyers saw them coming, every time, from 100 miles away. And in that cold, electronic certainty, the fate of the kamikaze was sealed.